Welcome to the Tristan Law Show. If it's your first time here, welcome. And if you've been here before, welcome back. I'm Tristan Law, semi-retired pro wrestler, and today, I'm your host. I've got a question for you. Has Hulk Hogan's time finally ran out? Wait, what am I talking about? Okay, maybe you are not aware that a couple weeks ago on the WWE Raw premiere on Netflix, that Hulk Hogan came out all, brother, with Jimmy Hart behind him, and they booed him right out of the building. Well, you know what? I want to take a look today at why Hulk Hogan is probably booed. I want to hear from you why you think Hulk Hogan is probably booed. Thanks so much for joining me. Whether you're watching this live or on demand, feel free to check in on the chat with your comments, because to me, your comments matter here. So yeah, in case you've been living underneath a rock, Hulk Hogan came out to promote his Real American Bear on the premiere episode of Monday Night Raw on Netflix. Game-changing move by the WWE and Netflix, but not so much for the Hulkster brother. I'm going to take a look at what this could mean for his legacy. We're going to look at the rise of Hulkamania. We're going to look at all the controversies and backlash in his life. And we're going to definitely take a look at the Netflix incident. Let's call it the Netflix incident and what happened. And then we're going to wrap it up by looking at the bigger picture. Is this the end of Hulkamania, brother? First and foremost, I want to say this. I give Hulk Hogan his flowers. I give him his credit. I give Hulk Hogan, the wrestler, his credit, because without him, there would be no pro wrestling as we know it today. In the 1980s, Hulk Hogan became the ultimate wrestling superhero. With his larger-than-life charisma, his catchphrases, and his iconic red and yellow look. WrestleMania 1 was a gamble not only for the WWE, but for Vince McMahon. If WrestleMania was a bust, Vince McMahon was going to owe a lot of money. And it was on the back of Hulk Hogan. Him alongside Mr. T, they definitely made WrestleMania 1 a massive success. And we're getting ready to roll into WrestleMania 42 in only a couple months. His body slam, Hogan's body slam and Andre the Giant at WrestleMania 3 is one of pro wrestling's most iconic moments. It was the slam heard around the world, and it helped make pro wrestling a mainstream spectacle. I as a pro wrestler, I could admit that if it wasn't for Hulk Hogan, there wouldn't be the opportunity for me to do what it is that I do today. Hulk Hogan is probably, or was probably, one of the first mainstream pro wrestlers that when people say, hey, what do you mean by, wrestling? I always say Hulk Hogan wrestling, and they just get that, right? I don't have to explain anything else more. They know exactly what it is. Hogan's role in making WrestleMania a global phenomenon, he eventually reinvented himself as Hollywood Hulk Hogan, turning heel and joining the NWO and WCW, brother. But we all know, once you're NWO, you're NWO for life. His transformation from this uber hero to a villain, it shocked fans and pushed WCW to new heights during the Monday Night Wars. And, really thinking about it now, is Hogan a villain now? Is he? That's something that we're going to take a look at, so let's keep hanging around. The NWO storyline in WCW was one of wrestling's most influential angles, reshaping how factions are used in storytelling. I have an NWO shirt, and I want to buy my son an NWO shirt because I want him to be NWO for life as well, too. Hogan helped break wrestling into mainstream culture. He helped WrestleMania's rise to WCW's dominance in the 90s. Hogan's career spans generations. Hogan's been wrestling since the 70s. And then he gained his dominance in 84. And then around 92, 93, it started fading away. And then 95, 96, he picked it back up again. Whether you loved or hated Hogan, his name is synonymous with pro wrestling and its history. And how did such a beloved figure become a target of boos, where everybody's telling him to the prayers and vitamins and everything else, the guy that's like a role model, a spokesperson? How did he end up here today? Well, let's take a look at that. So in 2015, in case you don't know, there was a recording leaked by the National Enquirer, and it was audio of Hulk Hogan having said some racist remarks directed at his boyfriend, Brooke Hogan's boyfriend. And it was something to the extent like, I would never let my daughter date a fill in the blank, N-word. And I'm not talking about like nice or nincompoop. Okay, use your imagination. So once that happened, WWE immediately cut ties with Hulk Hogan. They're like, no, we're not playing from that. They removed him from the WWE Hall of Fame. All references of him were removed from WWE.com. If you Googled Hulk Hogan, it would get, not found. They pretty much erased his legacy in just the swoop of just like one finger. Boop, just delete. Hogan went away. Hogan eventually apologized and said, that's not who he was. And he was on an ABC Dateline interview, and he said that he knew his daughter's boyfriend and he liked him a lot, and he was very mad at the personal situation regarding his daughter and the boyfriend, and that's why he used the word. Look, I don't care how mad you are. That's just something you don't do. Like, I don't get upset at a Hispanic person and use racial things towards them. I don't get upset at people that LGBTQ and use words against them, because you know what? I can get hurt as well too. So I just don't use those words. People have used those words to me in real life, and people have used those words to me on social media. You know what? I just don't give it any entertainment, especially when I look at your social media account and you only got 4 followers. I'm not going to let the whole entire world know that somebody with 4 followers is important. But somebody like Hulk Hogan, who at the time had a net worth of like $8.1 billion, something like that. And he washed it all down the drain with just one word. He said that he didn't know that he was being recorded. So imagine because you were being recorded doesn't mean, that shows that it's an integrity issue, right? Integrity is one of those things where, you always do the right thing even when nobody's watching, right? When asked about the interview if he was racist, Hulk Hogan said that he was not. I disagree, right? Because if I slap a woman, I am a woman beater. People like Kobe Bryant, right, was always deemed a racist even though he was found not guilty, right? But what makes Hulk Hogan so different? Because he's not a racist. Let me tell you what Hulk Hogan said about his upbringing. Hulk Hogan said that he blames his upbringing in Tampa. He used to tease his friends using the N-word, and they would greet each other saying that word. So when Hogan was growing up, Hogan was probably growing up in like the 40s or the 50s, maybe the 60s, if I'm doing the math real quick in my head. Maybe the 50s or the 60s when Hogan was growing up, right? And that's when racial tensions were real tight, right? So I don't think that he had any AFMs, African-American males, that he would walk around and just say, hey, what's up, ma? Or hey, that's just not something that he would do, because that's not something that was acceptable at the time. So that means I feel that Hulk Hogan and other people like him that look like him were running around throwing that word around because it was a game, not understanding that, that word has a lot of hatred behind it. So what happens? You got people like The Rock and you got George Foreman. The Rock is half black, half Samoan. One of the most iconic wrestlers in the world next to Hulk Hogan. They're on that Mount Rushmore. And he had George Foreman, one of the world's greatest boxers, who was black, who was blackety black. And they both came to his defense and says, well, I don't know him to be racist, but I think he's a good guy. You know what? They probably just don't know that version of Hulk Hogan. Because when Hulk Hogan's in public and when he's around people that don't look like him, he has to play the part. But when he's in the closet, right, with his friends and doing whatever that they do, maybe that's just a word that they throw around. People have said that word to me. I remember being in an organization, I'm not going to name the organization because it doesn't matter anymore, where people have said to me, you are the whitest black guy that I know. I want to let people out there know this. If you are a person that is not black, or if you're a black person, that's one of the most racist things that you could say. It's a demeaning thing. That's like saying to a man that he's not a man, or saying to a woman that a woman is not a woman. Those things are not cool, right? Because I have a couple college credits, because, I wanted to be somebody professional, because I don't say, yo, what up, my dude? What's going on and all that other stuff. Like, I could talk like that, but I just don't, right? That's just not my style, right? Because I'm a black guy that likes country music. I get looked at as like, oh, you're a white guy in a black man's body. No, I'm a black man in a black man's body, right? Because I still walk around and deal with issues as a black man. Nobody cares what music I like, right? Nobody cares that I like my steak rare. In case you don't know, many black people don't eat their steaks rare. I love a rare piece. My mouth is watering. Golly. I love a piece of rare meat. And many black people don't do that because they think it's blood. It's not blood, it's juice, right? So it's like, Hogan is, those are just words that Hogan, I think he used outside with his friends and with his circle. And it became so normal because he could use it around his daughter because his daughter looked like him, but didn't know that he was being recorded. All right, so that's about Hogan and his N-word controversy. There's still more. His backstage politicking and his reputation for his self-serving behavior. Hogan is allegedly a liar about numerous things. I actually made an episode about that in jest about it. It's called Hulk Hogan Lies, Myth, and Legend. Check it out. We took a look at some of the lies that Hogan did, so we're not going to really go into that too much. But some of the things that Hogan did that was self-serving for him, some of his former colleagues said that he's famous for the "it's not going to work for me, brother" lineman position with something regarding his Hulk Hogan character. Look, Hulk Hogan had it in his contract to where he can say, look, that's not going to work for me. So I'm not really too on the fence about that, but that's a black eye that people get from him too. Let's take a look at the chat and see what we got. Dominic McGregor checks and she goes, "We cannot ignore that he was one of the greatest. However, you're supposed to do the right thing even when nobody's watching. That was crazy that his reputation can be damaged quickly." Thank you so much for your comments. One of the things that I say as well too is that, when you are in a position of influence, you have to do the right thing because there's people looking up to you. There is somebody right now watching this, whether now at 149 subscribers that I have right now, be sure to subscribe or like if you like what I'm talking about, or somebody that's watching this when I have 10,000 subscribers. They are looking to me as some kind of idol or some kind of voice or some kind of figurehead. I have to behave right. All the things, look, we all got skeletons in our closet, right? And, some are bigger than others. And I know mine are not that big, right? Because I know I would like to run for politics one day. Surprise. I would like to run as a politician one day. And ain't nothing going to come out that says, oh, Tristan is this, Tristan is that, right? Might just say, Tristan owe a little bit of money here and there, but ain't nothing crazy. I ain't never do nothing to nobody's daughter. I ain't never take nothing from nobody. I ain't never said things I ain't supposed to say. So it's like, when you become a position of power, you have to do the right thing. Because the people that you are now, it'll make you look like a hypocrite, and it'll take all the money from you. Hulk Hogan refused to put Bret Hart over at the 1993 SummerSlam, saying that Bret wasn't in his league, and he put Yokozuna in over instead to win the WWE Championship. Look, I get it. I get it 100%. Hogan came from a time where it was the land of giants. Bret Hart is tall, but he's not Hulk Hogan tall. Bret Hart is not as big muscle-wise as Hulk Hogan, but the times were changing and Hogan wasn't willing to change with the times. So, he decided that somebody big like Yokozuna would be a formidable opponent. Hogan gets beef for that as well too. But now let's take a look at some more personal scandals, including his messy divorce and legal battles. He had a messy public divorce with his longtime wife, Linda Hogan, or Linda Bolea. That's their real name, Bolea. And this behavior embarrassed both of them. They acted the fool in the limelight, in the public, to what was going on. Hogan admitted to using steroids in the 1993 steroid trial, and he testified to get immunity from prosecution. Listen to me. If somebody gets immunity from prosecution, there is dirt on that person too, some way, one way or another. However, the person that they really want, they have bigger dirt on him. They'd rather throw back the small fish just to catch the big fish. And Hogan was the small fish at the time, and Vince McMahon in the WWE was the big fish. Look, I said it like it is. I said it like it is. The other thing as well too is that Hogan walked around talking about say your prayers, eat your vitamins, and and do all the other stuff. You thought he got that big from praying and doing vitamins. Nope, he was on steroids, brother. Hogan's son, Nick, got into a car accident which severely injured his friend. Critics blame Hogan's parenting style, and Hogan blamed Nick's friend for the injury. However, Hogan's son was driving the car. To me, that don't really make no kind of sense. It's your son driving, unless he was standing on top of the car while your son was driving, and I could understand how it'd be his fault. But if I'm operating a car and the other person is seating in the car, I'm in charge of everybody's well-being inside the car. I know that. I get that. Hogan don't get that. Let's go back to the chat. Johnny says Hulk Hogan's going to manage Tessa Blanchard. You know what? You never know what. Thank you so much for your comment. You never know what's going to happen in the world of pro wrestling. I personally think that Hogan still has some value in pro wrestling. I don't think it's where he comes out where people cheer him, because people don't really cheer Hogan anymore if you really watch what was going on. Thank you so much for your comments. So, like, these controversies, though, they lingered in fans' minds, right? One way or another, there's something, one of those things that I just named really ticked people off. I want to add in there as well, too, maybe his political affiliations, right? Maybe that's why people booed him as well, too. You know, there's so many different reasons that there were so many people in that arena that could have picked a reason to boo him. And I think if you ask me, it was a boo sandwich, right? Some people were for the, they never forgot about the messy divorce and all the stuff that came out. They never forgot about, oh, Hogan's never really, you know, done anything for anybody but himself. And then they also take a look at all the racist things that Hogan has said in the past. So they take a look at that and they go, you know what? I just don't mess with Hogan like that. I think that younger fans, though, they may not hold the same nostalgia for Hogan as older fans. Like for me personally, I'm going to let everybody know now, I wasn't a Hulkamaniac. I wasn't too crazy of a Hulk Hogan. If anything, I was a Macho Man kind of guy. Hogan, in my opinion, in the United States, he was never a good, let me rephrase this. When Hogan was Hulkamania, I don't think that he was ever a great wrestler. I think that Hogan was a fantastic entertainer. He was full of charisma, and that's how he put the butts in the seats. It was never about his wrestling. If you watch Hogan's stuff from Japan, you know, between when he left the WWF and came back to the WWE and all that other stuff, WWF, you know, you'll see, you know, he did some really good work in Japan. He actually moved and grooved and wrestled. But when he came to America, he didn't have to do that. But let me just say this, though. One of the things that I know from wrestling is that when we go into a show and it's a bunch of kids and the majority of the population is kids, you really don't have to do much. You don't have to punch out your bump cards and do a bunch of crazy moves. You don't have to. You know why? Because the kids will pop for anything. They will cheer for anything. It's the older fans, the ones that need a little bit more. You know, the older fans don't get excited by Barney or Elmo or Bluey and all those other things. They don't get excited for that, right? They get excited for Star Wars, Back to the Future, all those are stuff that they get, you know, entertained by. They don't get entertained by simple stuff. So in America, Hogan didn't have to really do what he did because a lot of his fans were majority of them were kids, right? And then they eventually grew up and be older kids, being adults, and they remember what it was like to be a Hulk Hogan fan. Let me tell you what the typical Hulk Hogan match is. His opponent comes out, right? And then they boo his opponent to high hells. The way that they booed Hogan at that Netflix premiere, that's how they booed Hogan. And then all of a sudden, Hogan's music hits. Din, 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 din. And it comes out, it got me down and it hurts inside. And then Hogan comes down and does the thing and he looks and he does the pointing and everybody goes, Hulk Hogan, here's my draws. And then what happens is that he gets down to the ring and then eventually he does the whole, you know, shirt tear off thing. And everybody goes, oh my God, he's tearing off the shirt. And then he throws the shirt. They get to the match. They do the lockup. They do whatever they got to do. Hogan gets beat up. Hogan tries to fight back. He gets beat down again. Eventually, Hogan, the other guy zigs when he should have zagged. And then Hogan gets up, you know, shoots the guy off the ropes, give him the big boot, to the face, hits the rope, leg drop, 1, 2, 3, and everybody cheers. Yay, Hogan is the winner. Hogan is the winner. Oh my God, we love Hulk Hogan. That's a typical Hulk Hogan match, right? You can watch every single Hulk Hogan match, and that's what it pretty much went to. For the older fans, like for me, that didn't really do nothing for me. I want a Macho Man. I want a Macho Man and Ricky Steamboat match. That's what did it for me. Let's take a look at the chat. Dominique McGregor comes back again, and she says, wait, but what if he got booed because he overstayed his welcome? Fans grew frustrated with his continued dominance in storylines when his physical abilities declined. Thanks so much for your comments. I don't think Hogan overstayed his welcome. I don't think Hogan has had a match in over 10 years. And Hogan's got more back surgeries than I don't know, than somebody who has a lot of back surgeries. And I don't think Hogan is physically capable of wrestling again. And I don't think there is a need that people want to see Hogan wrestling again. It's not something that people want to see. Nobody wants to see Hulk Hogan wrestle. He's not doing anything for anybody. But has he overstayed his welcome? I just think that with the way that the world has shifted and changed, they don't really rock with Hogan. If Hogan did all this stuff in the 70s and the 80s, Hogan would have still been loved. But now with social media and everybody having a voice, that's the thing about social media. TikTok, which is back. I'm on TikTok. Follow me at Tristan Law Show. TikTok is back. You know, you got Facebook. You even have YouTube. It gives people that shouldn't have a voice, right? 25 years ago, something like this that I'm doing now would have never lived on YouTube. You know why? Because I'm a wrestler and I was taught to protect the business. But I'm like, you know what? I love wrestling. I like talking about wrestling. I don't watch ESPN, so this is my ESPN to where I get to talk about wrestling with you. So I don't think that Hogan really overstayed his welcome. I just feel like, you know what? The new generation just don't rock with him. They don't really forgive him for his previous transgressions. So Hogan came out and he got to the Netflix premiere unannounced. If you ask me, I think it should have been Stone Cold Steve Austin. Somebody who spent a lot of time on Monday Night Raw as compared to Hogan, who was on WCW Nitro, the competition at the time in the 90s. Look, people cheered. When Hogan came out, it was like, oh my God, Hogan's here, take my drawers. And then it was like, oh, wait a minute, Hogan's here. No, give me my drawers back. Boo, Hogan. We don't like Hogan. But like when you look at the boos, there are other people there like The Rock, right, who is an open supporter of Donald Trump, who's now the president, and The Undertaker, who had Donald Trump on his podcast and supported Donald Trump. They didn't get the same exact reaction. Because you know what? You don't really get too tough with somebody about their political, views. Because like for me, I'm like, yo, whoever you vote for is whoever you vote for, right? You know what? We just hope that everybody's for all Americans and for taking care of what needs to be taken care of, right? Do I watch The Undertaker's podcast anymore? Not really, because I never really watched his podcast of politics. I watched to hear about his story behind the scenes because he was so dark for a long time about what happened in the wrestling business with him, and this is the opportunity, right? But when he got the politics on the air, I wasn't really in it too much. Joe Rogan had Donald Trump on his podcast, right? But that's Joe Rogan's style, right? Joe Rogan has everybody, so I don't hold it against Joe Rogan. So I don't wholeheartedly believe that it was because Hogan supports Donald Trump. I think it's a small part of the picture, but I don't think it's a whole part of the picture. I think as well, too, it's the real American beer, right? So if you ask me, the realest American beer is Budweiser. Whenever I think American, I think Budweiser. But Hogan is trying to etch out that market, right? But you know, I love me a Corona and I love me a Modelo. But because tariffs is probably going up, that's probably going to cost me a lot. So I might have to drink like Bud Light or something like that. There is a video of Hogan promoting the real American beer. And be sure to like this and subscribe if you're not subscribed. If you like what I'm talking about, live every every Tuesday and Friday at noon Eastern here on YouTube. There's a video floating around. It was on TMZ Sports, and Hogan was promoting the real American beer. And it was like, he was doing Stone Cold Steve Austin's "What" chant. And what happens, he said, he asked the crowd if they want him to body slam and leg drop Kamala Harris. Most people didn't like that because you're saying that you want to assault a woman, right? People in my community, in a black community, or people that grow up in like single households with a mother's like the queen, we protect our mothers. We protect the ladies in our lives, right? We don't mistreat them and stuff like that. So some people probably got rubbed the wrong way from that. And I know Hogan couldn't even get close enough to shake Kamala Harris's hand if he had bad intentions. So I'm not really worried about that. But then he asked the crowd if she's Indian, right? Because, she was Indian descent and she has Jamaican descent, whatever. That's not for me to decide. My name is not 23andMe. My name is Tristan Law. This is the Tristan Law Show. Thanks so much for joining me. But then he puts his hand up and says something that I think is mocking of Native Americans. You need to look at the video for that yourself. But that's not the Indian that she is. I think that's where the problem is. So I think that a lot of people, just like Hulk Hogan, your racism is showing. Like, that's not cool. I'm not saying that you can't promote your beer, right? If Hogan still supported Donald Trump, right, but promoted his beer in a more tasteful way, I would drink the beer. Why not? Beer is beer. I want to try it, but I don't want to support anybody that's not going to be like kind to people. Because let me tell you something right now. You don't need to have a lot of money in the world, but one of the lot of things that we have is kindness. Just be nice to somebody. Imagine being nice to somebody who you can't do anything for, right? Who you don't really, like when you go to people that, if you go to a restaurant and people are bad to like the servers or they're bad to like maids in the hotel, like look at them how they really are. If they get rude with people in restaurants, look at who they really are as a person. They're telling you who they are, right? But you just can't, just be kind to people. Let's see what we got. We got Anthony Verone. He said, if people solely blame political sidings with Trump for being booed, then they are stubborn. Hogan has a terrible track record and he's been a lousy man. I agree. Thank you so much for the comment. And like I said before, it's a boo sandwich. I think Hogan's political backings are just the mayo on the sandwich, right? The meat is definitely an racism thing with the N-word. People don't really forgive him. Like when it was time for Hogan to put his tail between his legs and be like, you know what, people, my bad. Let me go do some things with let me go rub elbows with black people. Let me go down to the hood and plant a garden or something like that to repair his image. He went on TV and said, well, it's something that me and my friends said to each other in jest and to tease each other. Let me tell you something. Ain't nothing fun about being called the N-word. Nothing fun about it. Somebody called me the N-word just recently. And I looked at them, it was an Asian man. I looked at him and I shook my head because I'm like, you know what, brother, you don't know your history. But it's okay. If those are the words that you choose to say when you're upset, you're a piece of crap. So let's look at the bigger picture. Hogan should still be recognized for his work in pro wrestling, good, bad, or ugly. Look, let's just say it. We got Shining for Christ exposed. You're a Hulkamaniac. Thank you so much for joining. And you know what? It's okay if you want to be a Hulkamaniac. I can't tell you who you should like and who you should not like. Like who you like, brother. But like, I commend Hogan for putting the WWE on his back and for running wild and making pro wrestling a household name. That was the way that I bonded. My grandmother and grandfather came to this country from Jamaica. And my mother used to always quarrel with her mother because my grandmother always wanted to watch wrestling. My mother used to try to run into the room and capture the TV before my grandmother would watch the TV because my mother does not like wrestling. It's not her thing. And like, the thing that I'm looking at is like, you know what? If it wasn't for people like Hulk Hogan, maybe I wouldn't have had that bond to where my grandfather was watching TV on Channel 5, watching WWF Superstars, and I would have went into the room and saw what was happening on the TV and become enamored and want to become a wrestler. But Hogan, his real life, the person that he portrays himself to be personally, I'm sorry, cover your kids' ears in 3, 2, he's a shitty person. I think Hulk Hogan is a really shitty person. Uncover the ears. I personally think that Hulkamania might have run its course. Culturally, in this day and age, I don't think people want Hulkamania anymore. It just doesn't work. But I agree 100% that there is still an audience for him. Do I think... Here's the question I want to ask you. Everybody watching right now, tell me in the comment, right? Here is the question. What would it take for fans to forgive and embrace Hogan? Think about that for a second. What would it take for fans to forgive and embrace Hogan? Whether you're watching live or you are watching this on demand, feel free to chime in and let me know what you think. What would it take for fans to forgive and embrace Hogan? Look, I think Hogan's been a bad man for a long time. I don't think that redemption is possible at this point because like they said in the movie Shatters, you're gone too far. I think that Hogan's gone really too far. Like he's like, when they say he's over the deep end, let me tell you, he's under the deep end. And I don't think that his image is rehabitable to the fans of pro wrestling. They could even stick him in the ring with Roman Reigns. People just won't care at this point. Hogan is a 71, 72-year-old man, one or the other. And it's just like, I think that he has, ran his course in the realm of pro wrestling. People are just not interested in Hogan. Hogan was a movie star. He was a TV star. I loved WCW. I loved the show that used to come on, Thunder in Paradise. I used to love watching that show when he was Spence and they were on the boat and all that. I loved Hogan like that back in the day. But I'm not really interested in Hogan. Look, I would have drank the beer. I went to Hogan's beach shop. And just to look around, and I bought some shirts there and stuff like that because you know what? Yeah, I'm cool with all that. But just like when you look at the whole entire Hogan sandwich of like the boo sandwich for Hulk Hogan, it's just like, nah, bruh. I just can't really I can't really jive with you like that. Look, listen, I could 100% separate one from the two. If Hogan was playing a character on like a TV show, or even in the realm of pro wrestling, because believe it or not, in case you don't know, Vince McMahon once said the N-word on TV. He was talking, this is John Cena, when John Cena was doing like the rapping thing, and then Vince McMahon comes by with a do-rag on and he goes, "What's up, ma?" N-word? And then walks off. He's playing a character. There was nothing that would lead me to believe that he would say something like that in his personal life, but I don't know Vince McMahon in his personal life, right? But all I could talk about in his in his professional life, that he might be a little bit, his personal life, that he might be a little bit freaky, right? The text messages out there prove that. But my whole thing is that when it comes to being racist, I don't think that Vince McMahon is racist, and everybody has a clean slate until proven otherwise. So if he just said the word on TV being a character, what's the difference between him saying it in as a wrestler versus real life? That real life is real life and wrestling is wrestling. But wrestling is one of those things where it's like on a gray area that you never just really know. But you know what? I'm always going to err on the side of like just playing a character. Because if you ever see me wrestle, I'm probably the nicest guy that I know, and I'm not the person that I portray when I wrestle. It's not. Anybody that knows me personally is like, yo, that's really a good dude right there. I take the shirt off my back to take care of you. I take care of my son. I make sure that he's mannered and he's polite. But when I'm inside the ring and I'm portraying Tristan Law, the character, I'm totally somebody different. So don't hold anything against me when I say. Looking at parallel to other controversial figures who have either recovered or failed to recover their storylines, listen, I'm going to drop some names right now. You might not know who these names are, but I'll tell you who they are. Robert Sylvester Kelly, Sean John Combs, William Henry Cosby Jr., and Christopher Michael Benoit. Those are bad men in their personal lives, and they should be regarded as such. However, R. Kelly, P. Diddy, Bill Cosby, and Crispin Benoit are all movers and shakers in movie, TV, comedy, and professional wrestling business, and their talent should be celebrated. But as people, they should be shamed in their personal life because they're like shitty people. Let's see what the chat says. Resident Fowler says, didn't R-Truth is one of Vince's best friends in real life? Isn't R-Truth one of Vince's best friends in real life? Thanks so much for your comments. Maybe, maybe not. But you know what? Let me tell you this now. There are people that try to say that they're not racist because they have a black friend, right? I used to drive a white car. So because I drive a white car, it doesn't make me racist? I'm not racist. I'm not saying that. I'm just making a parallel. I'm just saying. Thank you so much for your comment. Are they friends? I don't know. But what people do when they're together, like, look, there's been times I've been sitting around with a bunch of people when I was the only dark marble in a jar full of white marbles. And all I wanted to do was just fit in. And people used to say, oh, that person is an N-word. And I would be shocked and appalled. And I would be like, I wouldn't even know how to react. I think I was more embarrassed. Like, I'm embarrassed now because I didn't react. But I was so shocked. I didn't know how to react. I just stayed shut. Right? And it's just like, they would catch me looking at them, and my look is like, I'm gazing like I don't know what to say. They would say, no, we don't mean you. You're different. What does that mean? They still use that word to oppress my ancestors, right? So it's like, the words that you say, they hurt people, right? They're not nice. Look, speaking about all those terrible things that Hogan has said, speaking about all the terrible things that, R. Kelly did, to the young girls, that P. Diddy allegedly do, that Bill Cosby did, and Chris Benoit did. The only reason I say allegedly with P. Diddy is because, he's still in court. I say innocent until proven guilty, but you know what? I still saw the video, and I saw that he definitely put, hands on his ex-girlfriend, and that's not cool. It's not cool. Don't beat women. And women don't beat men. How about we just don't beat anybody? But I bet you this, I'll bet my whole entire life. Let me not bet my life because you never know. I bet a lot of money that out of all the stuff that all those men did, I'm sure that Hogan was never invited to a Diddy party. Y'all think Hogan was going to Diddy parties? Nah, Hogan didn't go to no Diddy parties. Hogan is at least 20 years older than Diddy. I don't think he was going to no Diddy parties. Even though Hogan has liked to grease up with baby oil. There are pitches out there. I don't know. Could be one and the same, could be two different. But you know, a lot of the stuff that Hogan has done is crazy. So look, Hogan's rise to stardom and his subsequent controversies. Look, Hogan, a wrestler, is the man. I appreciate his contributions to my business of pro wrestling, that if it wasn't for somebody like Hulk Hogan inspiring other people, I wouldn't have been able to get trained by people like the Dudley Boys, by Nunzio, by Richie Rotten, by Preacher, by all the other people that trained me in life. If they weren't, and somebody along the line didn't make pro wrestling mainstream, that made it cool. Pro wrestling is just as cool as basketball. Pro wrestling is just as American as baseball, right? Pro wrestling is a lifeblood. It's something that we do. It used to be something that was secret, that it was taboo. But you know what? Pro wrestling is cool. And pro wrestling is back. Men love wrestling, women love wrestling, children love wrestling, and let's put the age from 0 to like 100. They all love wrestling, right? But just the controversies, the thing that Hogan has done in his past, that's just kind of where the issues go there. The landscape of the wrestling fandom, let me tell you something. There's a lot of people that sit in audiences of pro wrestling that look just like me. And a lot of us, we don't play with that. A lot of us are professional people. We have educations, we're smart, and we're just not going to tolerate the bad behavior. You know, Hogan was in LA for the Netflix premiere of Monday Night Raw, with Monday Night Raw premiering on Netflix, and a lot of the people there were Hispanic. I would say a large portion of the people were Hispanic. And you know what? People just don't want that BS in their wrestling anymore. I want to watch my wrestling, but I don't want to know that you're a shitty person outside of work. Is Hulkamania truly over? You know what, brother? I think that Hulkamania is done. I think that Hulkamania is done. I think that Hulkamania has ran wild. I think that Hulkamania has ran its course. And do you think that Hulk Hogan's legacy can survive this backlash? Tell me about that in the comments, whether you're watching live or on demand. Or is it the final, nail in the coffin for Hulk Hogan? Look, like, share, and subscribe if you like exactly what I'm talking about today. I'll definitely be back on Wednesday. I'm lying. I'll be back on Friday at noon Eastern to talk more WWE, TNA, AEW, or heck, anything that moves me in the world of pro wrestling. My name is Tristan Law. This is the Tristan Law Show. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time.